Okay, so I'm back with my Mosaic Crochet coasters. I've got 3 of them completed right here. And as you can see, we kind of have a mess with the ends. This is the part of Mosaic Crochet that will scare a lot of people. It's like, what do I do with these ends? I don't want to just leave the yarn as is because I think it looks messy. So I'm going to show you a few options that you can do today to clean these up and make them look fun and look like more of a positive part or a bonus part of the pattern instead of how do I get rid of them and weave them in. So I'm going to start by showing you how to create tassels on the edge of your overlay mosaic pieces. So as you can see, each row, begins and ends, and you have to cut that yarn. So leave long pieces to work with, and this is just kind of an optional part of finishing off your mosaic piece. I find that with most ways that I'm going to finish off my crochet, I think this is a good way to kind of secure everything. So just take the first 2 pieces of yarn and just kind of knot it together. Do this all the way across your row. Again, this is just a kind of an easy way to kind of knot it and secure it in place. There's only one, if you actually crochet a border around, I don't recommend doing this because you don't want knots or hard sections in your border. So we're just going to go through and along the edge, just tie each section. This is always kind of easy to do because you have one piece of each color. In this pattern, I only had 19 rows, so my last row will actually have 3 pieces of yarn. Actually, I'm going to do the second to last row. So in this one, I have 3 pieces of yarn. I'm just going to grab these 2 together and just knot it. If I do it not on the end, it might not be as visible. So, okay, so that first step is done, and now we'll move on to making tassels. Okay, so we have all of our knots tied. Now to make the tassel, I'm going to kind of set this aside. I'm going to use both colors of yarn to make the tassel that I used in the Mosaic Crochet piece, so both the black and that cream color. And then you're going to want to find something about the length of the tassel you want to make. This is just a scraper I have in my kitchen, and you could do it the short ways or the long ways. I always recommend make your tassels longer than you want so you can trim them. It just gives you more to work with. So we're going to go the long ways here. And I don't want to have super thick tassels just because the crochet piece is kind of small. So we're just going to wrap it about 3 times. So there's 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and do 4. We're going to do 4 times. And then we're going to cut on the end that has the other ends on it. Kind of hold those there. And then take your scissors and cut all the yarn along the top there. And now you can take this edge and kind of pinch it, and it's going to create this loop here. So see, now I have a loop that I can work with to attach the tassel to my crochet piece. Okay, so I'm going to set this loop just to the side here. And then I'm going to grab my mosaic ends, and I've got a knot here and a knot here. So I'm going to take my crochet hook and I'm going to put it right into the edge between those 2 knots. So I have a knot on this side and a knot on this side. Now I'm going to grab the loop of the tassel I just made and pull it through that stitch. Now I'm going to insert my fingers through. I'm going to grab the yarn from the tassel and the yarn from the knot on both sides and pull through that loop. And then slowly pull all those edges tight to create a tassel. It might take a little bit of just kind of playing around with the yarn and pulling the ends to tighten that up. Okay, so as you can see, that one tassel is completed. Now we're going to make another tassel to insert into your mosaic piece between these next two knots. So I might even just go ahead and put my hook in here where I know I'm going to want the next tassel to be. Then I'm going to grab my extra yarn, my tassel piece of plastic here, my fancy doodad here. 1, 2, 3, and I did 4 wraps on the first one. And then we're going to cut the end. And then we're going to cut the ends of all of the pieces of yarn. Grab this loop on the end. Thread it through our mosaic piece. Pull it out far enough that you can get your fingers in there. Then you're going to grab the yarn from the tassel, and if it's easier, you can use your hook and grab the yarn from the knot on each side and pull that through as well. There's one. Oh, there they are. And then pull those tight. And I do find it, you almost have to pull each strand, just real simple. Doesn't take too long just to kind of get it nice and even so it will hold its position and its place in there. Okay, so now we have 2 tassels done, and we'll continue across the row. Okay, so now we have all of our tassels done. Now you're going to want to comb them out, try to get all that yarn nice and straight, and then take something, and this can be just about anything, a book or anything, and just kind of hold them straight, and then take your scissors and trim them up to about the same length all the way across. Bigger scissors than mine would probably work better. And comb those out. And then you have these nice tassel edges. This could be fun on like a scarf, or if you had like a larger like table runner and had the edges hanging off on the side. It just kind of gives a nice playful look to your crochet piece. Okay, another option to the tassels is fringe. This is actually one of my favorite parts, or favorite ways to finish off a crochet mosaic piece. Once again, we're going to go through and just kind of tie all of those edge pieces together, just 2 at a time. The fringe is not quite as full as the tassels, so it works good on like coasters and stuff. I think it's kind of a fun little, just a fun way to finish it off. So let's finish tying these up and then come back when we have all of our ends tied together. Okay, so all of our ends are tied together. So I'm just going to kind of swipe those aside. So to make the fringe, we're going to start with just 2 pieces of yarn. You're going to take the first piece and just twist it. So if you just put it in your fingers and twist like this, you're just going to twist it a whole bunch. You're going to see it kind of start to curl up here on the sides. See how it like curls up if you let go. So you're just going to do that a few times, and then you're going to hold that maybe with some back fingers, and then you're going to grab the next one and twist it as well until it's about the same length of, So as you can see, it's starting to curl up on itself. Twist it a few more times just for good measure. Then you're gonna hold them both pieces out to about the same length and then grab them together. And you can typically just tie them. And then let go. And they're just gonna twist up around themselves. So as you can see, it's just kind of a cute little twist for a fun little piece of fringe. So we're gonna grab the next knotted piece and same thing. We're gonna take one piece, we're gonna twist it over and over and over. The more you twist, the tighter this little fringe will be. So just twist those up. Okay, as you can tell, it curls up onto itself there. So then you're just gonna kind of hold that, grab the other piece, and start twisting it as well. Just twist to twist. This is probably the quickest edging. If I have a big project I'm working on, this is what I'll do in the evenings while I'm watching TV or something. I'm just gonna do a couple of extra twists there. Then you're gonna pull both of them so they're the same length, pinch them together, and then tie them in a knot. And then let go, and they'll just twist them around each other. So you want to make sure that when you're twisting these pieces, that you're twisting both pieces of yarn the same direction. Okay, so all those little pieces of fringe are now twisted together, and it looks super cute. I did want to point out that I have 19 rows here, so I don't have even numbers of yarn ends. So on this last one, I actually had 3 pieces of yarn, and I still twisted each piece of yarn individually, and then I just tied all 3 pieces together instead of just the 2. Now when you're done, you can just come through and just like before, just trim up the yarn ends. I don't know if you can see this, but the knots are all a little bit uneven, and I'm not too worried about it, but this one is quite a bit longer. So you can simply come in and just tie that knot up just a little bit higher than it was before, so it's closer to the height of all the others. And then when you're all done, you can come through. Let's see, this one's up pretty high or pretty low as well. And then you can come through and trim up all your yarn ends so that they're about the same length. So I'm gonna go ahead and click. Just real simple. I don't like to have a lot of just plain yarn on the ends. I feel like it just unweaves and it doesn't look very good. So this is a great example of just a fun little twist edging. These ones are a little bit longer. Here's a sample I made earlier that has the short little twists on it, and both options are very cute and appealing. Okay, for my last option, we're actually going to crochet a border that's going to have almost like a pocket in it, and all these row ends are going to be hidden in the pocket. So for this one, this is the one example that I said I don't necessarily recommend tying knots on, because I don't like to have the hardness, I guess, of the knot. So I'd actually leave these plain, but you don't necessarily need these really long yarn ends. So I just come through and we're just gonna kind of cut those so that they're, I don't know, roughly an inch, inch and a half on the ends, just so we don't have quite as much bulk that we need to hide. So we're just gonna kind of, and it doesn't have to be pretty because they're gonna be completely buried. Okay, so we're going to create a foundation that we're going to build off of to create the border. To do that, just get whichever color of yarn you want. I'm gonna go ahead and do green, and we're going to use a hook that's larger than what you used for the project. So, and that's mostly because we're gonna be working slip stitches, and it's nice to have a loose slip stitch to work into later. So I'm going to actually just start on one of these corners here. So we're just gonna kind of put our hook in here and pull up a loop. And then we're just gonna work a slip stitch in each stitch across the top of our row. And again, work this a little bit looser than normal, just because we are going to be working into those, the loops of the slip stitch. So a nice loose slip stitch will make that easier. So we're gonna walk all the way across the top, and then when I get to this end, I will come back and show you how to work the corner and down the side. Okay, so we're coming up on our corner here. We're gonna work in the top of that last stitch. Again, make sure that those are loose so that you can work across the top of them. So it's just a slip stitch across the top. Then we're just gonna turn our work and work along the row ends here. So you're just going to insert your hook into each stitch of the row and loosely work that slip stitch. Make sure that you're not like encasing these strands of yarn yet. That's gonna be later on in the project. So just kind of let those go awry and kind of stick out. We're not gonna worry about those. So see how I'm working just down the side, just go into each of that, the stitch of the last and the first stitch of those rows. You're just gonna work all the way down and then turn. So see how that border looks? Just come straight across and then straight down. We're gonna work all the way along until we come up to the top here. Okay, so we've completed our slip stitches all the way around our mosaic piece. And then we've joined with an invisible join, I believe right here. And that is gonna be what we're gonna build our double border on. So to start the double border, you're actually gonna turn your work over. And this, oh, let's see if we can get this in focus here. There we go. This loop right here is the back of the slip stitch you just worked. That is what we're gonna be working into for our border. So we're gonna drop back down to our smaller crochet hook that we worked the actual coaster in, and we're going to join with a slip stitch, or just join with a slip knot, I guess, and chain one. And then this is kind of a preference. I am going to work a row of half double crochets. I have seen people work double crochets and treble crochets. So this is just kind of your own preference of the style of stitch that you'd like. So since I'm working a half double crochet, I've just got my slip stitch, which is kind of like a chain one there. So I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna work into that same stitch and complete a half double crochet, yarn over, and I find it's easiest to grab that loop with the tip of your hook. So this is gonna be a little bit tricky, but then work your half double crochet. We're gonna do this all the way around. Our crochet piece, and when you come to the corner over here, the very last one worked 2 half double crochets, and then you're gonna rotate and work down, and in the first one you're gonna work 2 double crochets, or sorry, 2 half double crochets. So working an extra half double crochet in the last and the first stitch will help create that corner right there. All right, so I'm coming up on that corner. So here's my last stitch of that row. So we're gonna work 2 half double crochets in that. So there's 1 and 2. Then we're gonna rotate our work and work along the row edges. So as you can see right here is that first loop. So we're going to insert our hook into that and work 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to continue along the edge, working into that back bar again of those slip stitches. We're going to continue this process all the way around the coaster or the mosaic piece. Just grabbing that back bar. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get. Sometimes if I have one that's too tight, I find it helpful to grab my yarn needle and thread it underneath and then just kind of pull it forward. Just doing that sometimes will loosen that up enough that it's easier to get your hook under. All right, so go ahead and continue crocheting, and let's meet back up when we're all completed with the round. Okay, so we've completed the first round of the border, and I've joined with an invisible crochet and fastened off. And now we're going to flip it to the front side so that we can kind of wrap this up. So once again, we're going to join with our color of yarn. And this time we're going to also be working in the front loop of those slip stitches that we did earlier. So just to help find those, it's in the green. And if you kind of pull that forward, we're going to just be working into that top loop, this one right here. So instead of going into both stitches, or both loops, we're just gonna pull that top loop up and work into that, repeating the exact same thing we did on the back. So we're gonna work half double crochets all the way around, and then when you get to the corner, you'll work 2 half double crochets in the last stitch and then 2 half double crochets in the front stitch. Okay, so we're just going to kind of grab one of these stitches here, grab that front loop, and then our new yarn here, chain 1, and then work a half double crochet again just in that front loop, or top loop, I guess. And then yarn over, grab that top loop, and half double crochet. And we're just going to work that all the way around, like I said. When you get to the corners, work 2 half double crochets in that last stitch, and then 2 half double crochets in the first stitch once you turn. And we're going to work that all the way around, and then we'll meet back up when the entire border has been crocheted. Okay, so I have finished that round all the way around on the front side. And then I just joined with a slip stitch in the top of that first stitch. So as you can see, there's like 2 sides, and I've created this pocket all the way around my crochet piece. So the next step is we're going to be sewing that pocket together. So we're going to push those edges together, and we're going to slip stitch the tops of the stitches together, enclosing the edges. So that way when we come up on this edge right here, you'll just lay those yarn ends down and stitch it together. And this will actually just bury all of those yarn ends as you go. So let's begin with that row, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I crocheted all the way around, and then I just joined with a slip stitch in that first stitch. Now it's important that you make sure that your stitches are lined up so that your corners are lined up as well. So you're going to want to go through the back loop only of your first stitch. Now make sure that you've got the corresponding stitch on the opposite side of your work, so that way, just to make sure that so I have my 4 corners right behind here. So I want to make sure if I look over here that my 4 corner stitches are right there. So I actually need to go 1 stitch back. Okay, so I have my 4 corners behind me back here. So I've got the back loop of my front border and the back loop of my back border, and we're going to slip stitch. And then in the next stitch, grab the back loop and the back loop and slip stitch together. So you're going to do this all the way around the border, and if you come up on any loose ends, just make sure that those are laid down within that pocket as you crochet. So I'm going to work the top. This is the easy part because there isn't anything. So I'm going to work across the top, and then I'll come join you, or I'll come back when we get to this point of trying to bury in all these ends. Okay, so I have completed across the top of my work. So as you can see, it just creates this nice clean border. So now as I turn my work, this is where the magic's going to happen, and all these row ends are going to just disappear. So you're going to find it easiest if you just take each of the row ends and just kind of try and comb them down into your work. And I'd stop every 5 or 6 stitches and just kind of make sure they're in there. So just grab those stitches and lay them down, and then pinch the pocket together basically, and work those back loops of your stitches to slip stitch together. So there's 1, 2, 3. And as you come up on, I mean, it's going to be busy because there's a lot of them in there. So just kind of keep pushing those down in there and crocheting. You might have to stop every 2 stitches. There's 1, 2, and slip stitch. 1, 2, and slip stitch. So this is where your taller stitches might make it easier by working double crochets or treble crochets. I just like the look of a smaller border, which is why I work half double crochets. But if you are having a really difficult time with this, when you do a bigger project, just work double crochets. So again, you're just grabbing those back loops and slip stitching together. Back loop, making sure that all those yarn ends are tucked inside. It may take a little while, but once you get those in there, they look beautiful. Okay, this is what we're working with, and all that is hidden underneath this double pocket here. Okay, so once the entire border has been crocheted, there are no yarn ends to bury. It's like magic. You will have one because you still need to complete with an invisible join here, and then you will have just this one yarn end that you need to bury when you're done. However, in comparison to the, let's see here, there were 38 pieces of yarn that needed buried. So I will not complain about one yarn end at the end of the project. So this is what your border will look like. This is the back side, and this is the front. And again, it's a very, it is a bold border, but there's a purpose behind it, and that is to keep all those yarn ends nice and snug in there and cleaned up. So this could be a great option for like a pillow that you're making in Mosaic or something like that. It is a nice sturdy one. So I don't necessarily know if I'd want to do it on a blanket. If I did it on a blanket, I would definitely do maybe 2 rows of half double crochets on the front, and then 2 rows of half double crochets on the back, and then create that pocket, just because it is stiff. And so on a blanket, I would want it to be a little bit more, well, just less stiff, so it'd be like more of a cozy blanket. So okay, so today we went through the mosaic border, the fringe option, or the tassel option, as well as the option of fringe. So I hope out of these 3 options that you found one that you like and would like to try, and that you decide that you want to give mosaic a try as well.